work today with preparations for a great opportunity this coming Saturday against a top 10 team in Louisville. Very explosive on offense, very disruptive on defense. Top 5, top 10 statistically on defense in just about every single category, and offensively anywhere from top 5 to top 20 in every category as well. So a very complete team, a lot of good football players, and a great opportunity for us. And again, a day of really, really good preparation so far. So questions, please.
Mario, it was reported that Emery was having surgery today, and just wanted to know how he is, and first how he is, and then also when might he return to the team, even as an observer at practice or a game.
Emery's doing well. You know, as you guys saw, he had a significant injury on Saturday. And obviously procedures, we keep those things to ourselves. What gets out there, but, you know, it's not really, you know, our doing. We keep that stuff private. He's doing great. He'll be full go for spring practice. And he's a tough guy. He really is a tough guy. This means a lot to him. Has the full support of his teammates. Saw him this morning, see him again here in a little bit. So very proud of him for his effort, and proud of him for the way he handled everything from the week itself to the game itself, and then dealing with, you know, his circumstances.
He's had a really good attitude, hasn't he?
Him?
Yeah.
He's never had a bad day.
Yeah.
Never.
How poetic is probably the wrong word, but to get that substantially injured on a play where he had to get that last inch to give you guys a chance to keep that last drive on, just what does that say about that kid?
Oh, I think it says a lot about him. It says a lot about football. You know, football is the ultimate competitive opportunity in sport, and it could be unforgiving at times, right? It'll push you to your limits and beyond, and it's going to force you to deal with adversity, you know, and you're going to have a breakthrough or you're going to have a breakdown. Guys like that, you know, they find a way to break through, and to him, that's all he wanted to know. You know, besides, you know, being in a little bit of pain, you know, did I get the first down? Did I get a first down? What's up with the replay? You know, so he's, I think he embodies, like a lot of the guys that you guys have a chance to meet and speak with, just feel like the DNA is right, and the DNA is improving on a daily basis around here.
Reasonable to assume that it's a competition this week to figure out what you're going to do next?
It's always reasonable because we're going to compete every single week at just about every position, but Tyler is going to be the starting quarterback going in. Jakari is going to compete. Jakari is going to get a lot of reps, and he's a really good player. But answer the question.
I mean, you talked even very complimentary about Tyler.
I'm sorry, one more time.
I kind of wanted to ask tonight, but you've been very complimentary about Tyler, you know, through this whole thing, his struggles this year. It's the kind of zigzag of being a starter, getting sat down last week, coming back in the last part of the last drive of the game, now starting again on Saturday. How has he kind of handled kind of that back and forth?
Being a quarterback at Miami is, you got to be tough. You know, you got to have thick skin. You got to be a competitor. He's all that. He handled last week like a pro, which means disappointed, upset, really fought hard all week, and it was a great week of practice by both guys. In fact, at the end of the week, staff felt like, man, we've made a lot of progress. Felt like as a staff and as players together, we did a better job of putting things together, knowing it was going to be a difficult team to move the ball against, particularly through the air, where they had excelled. But because of his performance last week, because of his determination, his past successes, you know, that's what your job as a coach is to provide clarity, remove the clutter, and make people better. He's done really, really well. He's handled everything really well, and he has the confidence of his teammates and the coaches.
I know it's been a year since we've seen Jakari on the field in a game, but what stands out, or what do you remember maybe about his performance against Georgia Tech last year, and how maybe has he developed since then?
He's developed in a lot of different ways as it relates to not only, you know, everybody talks about he's a good athlete and whatnot, but he's developed as a passer. By that I mean going through his progression, being accurate with the football, understanding the offense, understanding how to get us in and out of plays, understanding of protections, you know, because extending plays, yeah, some of it is natural, but some of it is understanding, okay, we're kind of we're in a rough spot here. But if I could hang in there and use my eyes to pull this particular defender out so that I could find a way to get through, extend, maybe flatten out and get the ball down the field, I can. He continues to evolve in that way. And, you know, he played last year, and the whole thought going into this year is like, hey, if we could, you know, with Tyler being the starting quarterback going into the season, if we could find a way to preserve a red shirt, we could. It would be great for all of us because he has such a bright future here at Miami. And then the last couple of weeks, it was kind of muddy, and, you know, Emory had received a lot of the preparation time. So that's the route we went to. So that being said, yeah, he continues to get better and better. He's got natural leadership skills. You saw some of it flash last year, like you mentioned, in the Georgia Tech game, both throwing the football, running the football, improvising, extending plays. And he'll be doing that all week in practice. Again, he's very much competing and working really hard.
Mario, speaking of another person who's been dealing with injuries for a long time now, Zion Nelson we haven't seen him dress or anything. Do you know what the situation is? Is he going to be able to get back on the field at some point in his career, or do you know what his status is going to be?
I think he is, and it's I know he's frustrated. He's a great human being, by the way, and obviously a really good football player as well. The nature of his injury just requires time, you know, time and tweaks. And I can't get into specific detail as to what that is, but when you're a big body, you want to make sure you get it right, just because those guys have so much more stress, right? So much more power and force in all their movements. So we feel very confident that we're going to get there. It's certainly taken longer, you know, than all of us would have ever wanted or expected. But whatever time it takes, we're willing to, for him, number one, right? You want to do what's best for the student athlete and for the team too, because the moment he gets healthy, he's an instant boon for our offensive line and for our team.
As if being a head coach wasn't tough enough, there's always recruiting of players, and now you're at a point in the season where head coaches are losing their jobs, and that means assistant coaches are going to get talked about and involved. And how much do you communicate with guys about opportunities that may or may not come their way? Is it something that you let them bring to you? Do you worry about when the merry-go-round starts at the year in college football? How do you handle it?
I mean, it's your job to help guys get an opportunity that if they really want it, you know, because I've had great coaches that I've worked for that when something came about, they might give me a hard time, but if they knew it's something I wanted, they eventually would come around and help me out. So I do believe in that. And at the same time, it's no different than your organizational chart for your players. You keep one on coaches around the country because, and that thing evaporates quickly as well, right? It's a race, but it's a race where you have to be patient too, because sometimes you know the person and sometimes you might be on your chart where, wait, great reputation, pretty good statistically, I don't know them. How's this thing gonna fit? And you know, a lot of the progress that we're having is because of the fit and the people. You know, people that want to be here, people that are willing to work hard, that understand that, like, you know, to go where we want to go, you have to be fully invested, you know, and that's why, you know, things are moving, you know, in the direction, you know, that we want to go, and got to keep, and understand we got to keep getting better and better and better. So this time of year, it's, you know, it's always crazy, always has been, always will be. I think you just deal. It's no different than a penalty on the field. Well, let me not go there. It's no different than a situation on the field that you got to handle, you know, turnover or something else. You deal with it and you go.
You talk about investment and all those things. You're also at the point in the year where it's not uncommon anymore in the sport to see a player say, I'm good, I'm going to protect my interests, whatever. Have you had anybody come to you and say that?
I've had it. You know, I know that's, you know, no one knows where college football is headed, right? It's just ever changing. You know, I don't judge. Should those moments come and whatnot, and I've seen it happen before, I've experienced it before, you just don't judge. You just do whatever's best for the team. That's all that matters. You know, at the end of the day, when you put your head down at night for the few minutes you get to put it down at night, you do it knowing that no matter what, at all costs, you're doing what's very best for the team. Nothing else can override that. Nothing.
You started I think it was 5 true freshmen this past week, and arguably your biggest game of the season. What does that say about the opportunity you'll give to freshmen that earn it, and also about the foundation of where things are moving for the future?
Yeah, actually, and Riley was in, I believe, series 2 or 3. We were planning on starting in 6. I think that's a couple things. Number one, confidence in them. 2, their development. 3, the caliber of players that we're bringing into the program, right? Which is Miami caliber players. That was always the case, right? And Miami should be littered with classes stacked like that. It's our first full class. They've worked hard. They've earned it. Some guys were here mid-year. Some guys got here in the summer. Mark Fletcher got here in the summer. Damari Brown got here in the summer. That's hard, to be able to turn that thing around and get the starting position. What CC plays, Francis, what he played, that's hard. I know he was here mid-year, but it's hard to go and play in that environment where you can't hear the snap count and you're going against, some guys that are 3rd, 4th, and 5th year players. So it's a testament to them. It's a testament to the leaders that have helped groom them, to their coaching as well, and to their commitment to preparation. So it's exciting. Call it what it is. We're always going to be very upset. We're going to be beyond just gut-wrenching pain when we don't achieve our goal. But the best way to describe the sentiment in the locker room is driven.
In your mind, how far does the team come compared to when you got here, just from a physical standpoint, winning more trench battles, tackling, and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's miles, stratospheres, really. You always want to see where you are in the trenches, because that's the hardest part to develop. Because if you can't block or you can't knock back the line of scrimmage and tackle, that takes 2 or 3 years to develop. I know the portal has changed that some, right? You could find some more mature bodies, but you still have to hit on those bodies. And if any part of a roster is protected by programs, it's the trenches, right? Seldom do you see high-level trench guys, bounce around portal-wise. So that was an area that was just glaringly just lacking, and it showed up in short yardage goal line situations. A year ago, we couldn't run the ball very well, couldn't protect the passer very well, couldn't defend the run very well, and it starts up front. So, yeah, it's a tremendous turnaround in all phases, and not only an influx of talent, but also really player development. A lot of guys that had been here or just got here, they really worked hard to develop great core strength, great power, right? Hips, legs, upper body, striking, block destruction, unlocking hips, running feet through contact. So, kind of go off on a tangent there, but you know what I mean? It's the most important. It's the hardest part to develop. So we're really enthused about that progress there, because that could lead to all the other stuff. And you look on Saturday, if you broke down the difference in the game statistically, the game's pretty even, right? There's a couple really mature portal skill guys that made some critical plays down the stretch, for the other team, and credit to them for doing that. You don't take that away from them. They've made those plays. Our guys are getting better, and we're going to keep finding ways to get better and keep finding ways to be more impactful and bring in more impactful guys at all positions.
You mentioned Damari, who had obviously a really important job starting in that game. How did you feel he and Jadis Richard played?
They were excellent. Those guys were excellent. Big, they're fast, they're physical, they're fearless. They did a really good job, and a lot of contested throws as well. Some of the timing, back shoulder things, those are hard, man. Those 9 stops, when that ball is thrown to a player with a catch radius is as big as you'll see in college or pro football. Those are hard, but those guys battled. They were physical. They never shied away, And the plays that they did give up were plays that, the other team had to scratch and claw for. So really proud of them, both of them, and really let them know, we all let them know, really proud of them for their efforts. Bright futures.
Please don't get fined for this one, but have you gotten an explanation on the safety, and do you expect an explanation on the safety? Notice I didn't ask you if it was a safety.
Let's catch a little Cuban coffee later this week or something like that, you know, figure it out.
Career, what can that type of game do in terms of confidence and development moving forward?
I love that guy, man. That guy is, you know, he's developing so much, and, you know, I've said it before, I'm going to push him hard because he's got a lot, carries a lot of responsibility. And he really is an awesome young man, and he's a guy that sky's the limit, and, you know, the more he develops, the more you're going to see that of him. You know, he's got great wiggle. He's got unbelievable balance, body control, and he could track the ball. And when you have a game like that against a secondary, in tough situations like that long one, I don't know if you saw the way he leaned into it, laid hands, and then still through some obstruction found a way to catch it. It's high-level stuff. That route down there, the delayed fade down at the goal line, that's hours and hours and reps of practice. So it's great to see that pay off for him and for the quarterback and for the offense. So it's something great to build off of. You know, I think the more confidence guys get when they touch the ball like that and make plays, the more you could build off of that. And hopefully, you know, we intend to see more and more from him and the rest of that receiving crew.
Do you ever get caught thinking that yesterday you were 2-0, you're 2 games into the season, and today there's 2 games left in the regular season? It goes like that. Does it seem that way? I know you live and breathe every second of every day, but does it seem like the season just flies?
You know, I don't know if I've thought that far or that deep in advance, man. You know, right now it's like, you know, we're on, you know, 3rd down and red zone and chopping away at that stuff and formational stuff and really studying their personnel. There's, you know how much I love ball. I mean, I live and die this stuff. So for me, it's just everything is geared towards how can we help our team be successful? How can we help make Miami better? How can we find a way to keep progressing? How can we continue to move the program forward, eliminate issues, eliminate penalties, you know? That just doesn't stop, so that eats up every second of the day. There's no personal time.
Henry Parrish has been kind of limited since the UNC game, didn't play last week. Do you know what his status is going to be going forward?
I think he'll be healthy enough this week. I mean, he was healthy enough to play. Just didn't look like he was up to full speed, and the other guys were. Same thing with AJ. You know, felt that they were 2 days away, 3 days away. You know, like they were right at the cusp, and those other guys were running the ball really well, so we went with those guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
We have Offensive Coordinator Shannon Dawson. We'll go straight to questions to Coach Dawson.
Coach, I asked Mario the same thing, but just what's it say about the will and all that, on a play where every season he fought to get the centimeter or millimeter, whatever it was needed to keep that track going?
I mean, that about sums it up, right? And that wasn't the only time in that game that happened. You know, there was one of the scoring drives, we had a 3rd and 6, and he ran over a guy for a first down. Yeah, enough said, right?
How'd you feel about the way he handled the game in its entirety, Emory?
I mean, I thought he handled it great. Poise. I mean, if you think about the way the game went, first drive of the game, we're backed up. His feet are in the end zone, right? And showed pocket presence was great. Was watching him close just to see demeanor, you know, everything about his, you know, actions on the sideline and out there was extremely positive, you know. And, you know, there's always things that you wish you would have done, like, you know, I thought we could have hit a couple of those over the middle, but ultimately, through the course of the game, I mean, I thought he played his tail off, and I thought he battled. You know, he really, really, really showed a lot of fight.
What about the way Tyler handled everything throughout the week and then actually having to come in at the end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, extreme professional, right? I mean, I told him, I said, look, you know, this is, it's not the first time this has ever happened in the history of football. There's a lot of, you know, stories out there. There's a blueprint for how you handle this, right? And I thought he handled it great. You know, he was great all week, practiced great, was great on the sideline, was great with Emory. I mean, look, that's what you got to do, you know. I mean, heck, you know, there's very few people that have played this game that haven't been in that situation. I've been in that situation, you know. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, you got to, you know, I mean, you got to take the high road, and you got to be ready for your next opportunity. And that's what I preach in that room is like, look, when you get your opportunity, you take advantage of it, you know. And if something happens that takes you off that road, when you get your next one, you take advantage of it. And that's the reality of the sport.
Shannon, it seems like Jacoby George has really come along this year. Leads you guys, I think, in receiving yards and touchdowns. Had a great game on Saturday. Just how has he grown throughout the season to where he is now?
You know, I mean, he's become a really steady player. You know, in games like that, man coverage, I mean, he's got wiggle. He sticks his toe in the ground. He's made a lot of big plays through the course of the year. And that game was one that's been really on the verge of happening for a little while. And we just need more of them, right? Just need it every week, right? That's the key. Just consistency, right? Consistency.
85-yard touchdown catch that he had. What did you see from the sideline on that play? Like, were you surprised he caught it?
I wasn't surprised he caught it. I mean, I knew, I had an idea where the ball was going. You never know exactly where the ball is going because you call plays and, you know, there's reads and there's coverages take you places. They were playing the field. They were playing on the low hip because a lot of teams do that because you run a lot of curl routes to the field or whatever. So I just didn't know how deep and far the safety was, you know. And I thought it was an elite throw because if he puts air on it, which you really want to put air on that ball, but the safety was so deep, if he'd have put air on it, he probably would have got to it. And so he took air off and threw it a little lower, which I thought was a phenomenal decision for a young quarterback and, you know, elite play by George, obviously.
There was a chaotic moment and adverse situation in the 2-minute drill, but when you go back and watch that, what's your assessment of how things went in the 2-minute?
You talking about the last drive? I mean, look, I mean, they can cover pretty good, you know, and I knew that going into that game, you know, I knew that if we got it towards the end and we had a possession to go score, I mean, look, you're not going to get wide open guys a lot of times versus their man coverage. I mean, they're probably the better team throughout the course of this season of playing man coverage. And so we had some opportunities where guys, you know, we ran a slant route the first play and Strep was open, was a little off. If you hit that, I mean, there's nobody else there, you know, so that might be a 30 or 40-yard gain. Typically in 2-minute situations, you need a chunk play, you know. You need a chunk play. You need something to happen that breaks a guy loose, you know. So we just didn't get it. You know, we methodically moved it to the 50, And then we missed on a couple back shoulders to Kobe. And then the last play was trying to run an out to Strep. And they covered it decent. I thought he got open a little bit late, but, you know, I mean, that's more of a testament to those guys. I mean, the two things that they do good on defense is they rush the passer and they cover. Well, what do you got to do in 2 minutes? You know, you gotta protect and throw. So we tried to hit them on a run. I think it was 1:13 left. I thought the safeties would be more spread. They actually had the safety a little closer to the line than I thought. So I thought we could hit them on a run like we did at the end of the first half. I don't know if you remember that at the end of the first half. We hit them on a run that got it down there. I thought it'd be a similar situation in that, but the safety, probably because of that play, was playing a little bit tighter, and his eyes were a little bit more in the backfield in that situation. So yeah, I thought they did a good job of defending 2 minute. And obviously, look, you watch film, and are there plays I wish I would have ran in certain situations? There always is. You know, that's facts every game. It don't matter if you win or lose. There's regrets in every situation, you know. I mean, hell, I wish I wouldn't have called the last play that Emory got hurt on, you know. If I'd have called a different play the play before and we got the first down, I wouldn't have had to call that play. And so all those things go through your mind, you know. I mean, what ifs, you know. It's easy to be that guy, you know. My wife's that guy a lot, you know. She knows the exact play to call a day after I called it, you know, so. She has a tendency to do what she was talking about. She has a tendency to read a lot of things, so she's an expert, you know. I'm the only one who's not an expert, put it that way.
When you get,
I got 20 seconds.
when you get to this point, when you get to week 11, whether you've got 10 wins or 6 wins or no wins,
Yeah.
how do you keep, when you've got a team that's trying to build, you're in, you know, the early steps of building something that Mario wants to get to, how do you keep the focus on development to this
Man,
point?
focus on the positives. You know, I mean, we're extremely positive group, you know, coaches and players. I mean, look, this game will beat the life out of you if you let it. You know, don't let it, you know. Focus on the positives. And so are there negatives? There are negatives everywhere unless you're undefeated, you know. So the things that we've been doing good week in and week out are things that you can 100% build on. I mean, we've been physical every week. We've ran the ball against good teams better than anybody ran it on them all year. You know, the first half of the Florida State game is a testament. I mean, they haven't been gashed like that all year. And so the second half, what did they do? They got people closer to the box, and it's like, well, y'all gonna have to throw the ball, right? So we needed to make some play. The third quarter was a reflection of how well we ran the ball the first half. And, you know, they didn't like that. And so they came out and they were like, okay, let's close it down, take the air out of it a little bit, and let's see if they can move the ball throwing it, you know. And honestly, we had some things and we just missed it. You know, it was a little off on a couple of third downs that would have kept drives going on the first third down, right? And so you got to just make those plays and keep drives going. And so, you know, it's easy to look at things as far as, you know, from a far out view and say, you know, point your finger at certain things. When you watch the film, like we watch the film, it's also very easy to point out, look, these are a lot of things we're doing good. All we got to do is these 2 or 3 things a little bit better, and we're in a situation where we're not fighting to tie it at the end. We're fighting to run it out at the end. You know what I'm saying? So it's not hard to see when you watch it like we watch it, but ultimately we also have to have guys make those plays, you know, because ultimately that's going to get us over the hump.
What I was asking though is, are the kids still in it? Because the human condition being
Yeah.
that it is, are the kids still engaged in,
Oh,
in
100%.
that?
Yeah. I mean, kids love playing ball, you know. I mean, they look, in my opinion, kids are probably more resilient than the coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can probably get over stuff probably a little easier than we can at times, you know, most of the time. And so we have to just make sure that we uphold our part of the deal. And our part of the deal is to stay positive, you know. And if our energy and the things that are coming out of our mouth are the right things, then they will follow, you know. And you also have to have the leaders of your team, you know, staying positive. And so it's easy here right now to stay positive because there's a lot more good things out there from our perspective than bad, you know. And we've struggled in a handful of games offensively, and it was easy to see why. You know, we needed certain things to do a little bit better. And then you get in games like that, and, you know, I mean, heck, you know, you're right there in it at the end. You've been more productive than their average, and you just got to have a drive at the end to tie it, you know. And so being right there is good, but that's not what we want, right? It's close, but not close enough. And so, but there's definitely positives throughout the course of the game and throughout the course of the season that you can lean on. And one of the biggest ones, honestly, is just up front. I mean, we protect the quarterback as good as I've seen. We run the ball as good as I've seen. And so those two things are typically the two things that are the hardest. And so if we can keep doing that, then I promise you the other stuff will fall in place.
Last week you said that you think Tyler's issues the last month or so has been like trying to do too much.
I know.
That Tyler's issues kind of stem from trying to do too much. Obviously, you know, the drive he had against FSU, he has to try to do a lot, so it's not really a great sample size, but do you think he's improved on that front from what you've seen in practice?
I do. I honestly do. I mean, the drive at the end's tough. It's tough to go in there when you haven't played and try to win the game, you know. He made a couple really good throws, and he was trying to make a play at the end, and, you know, it's 4th down. So why not throw it up, right? You got to. And so I would think different if he didn't, right? And so his mentality and focus is a little bit different right now. A lot of times, too, you know, you don't have to look far for this. Like, I know that, like, everybody, like, gets tunnel vision on certain things, but Alabama had a quarterback that got benched. Look how he's playing right now. You know what I mean? So when I say the blueprint's out there, you don't have to look 10 years in the past. Just look around, right? And that's my point, is don't feel like that you're the only person going through something, or you're the only person that has to go through something, right? There's somebody right down the road that's going through it, or right down a couple states over that's going through it, you know, and they're handling it really well, and they took advantage of the next opportunity. And I would be shocked if that doesn't happen, you know?
What challenges does the Louisville defense pose?
You know, it's like week in and week out, it seems like, you know, I look at statistically, and they're, you know, every defense is like close to the top, and then this defense is the top, you know, scoring defense. And so they're very similar to the last couple of defenses we've played. You know, you look at NC State, Florida State, and them, I mean, they're, you know, they're not giving up a lot of points. They're not like giving up a lot of yards. Their 3rd down is really good because they rush the quarterback really well. So, you know, it's going to be one of those games where we got to grind out drives and grind out points, you know. And I thought last week to this week, you know, we did a much better job in the score zone, -1 possession. But I thought, you know, the one at the end of the half, you know, I wish I would have called another play before the field goal, you know. But you know, when things are going fast and you call a play and it don't work, it's easy to look back at it. But, you know, ultimately, the way everything went was to the T to get us to the end and hopefully, you know, have that drive.
When you get toward the end, do you go back to the book and say, I still got this to break down, I still got this I haven't shown yet? Are there certain things that you...
There are. I mean, the 4th down play we ran that Emory got hurt on, you know, that was a play that in a crucial time we were going to run. And that time presented itself, you know, much like at the end of the half, the option route we threw to Bouchard, that was a specific time, game, specific yard line. We got to that point, it was the right time to call it. Now, there's always a handful of plays that you work during the week that those opportunities don't present themselves, you know. And so that's probably more frustrating to me than anything, is when you feel like you have certain things and then you look back and you're like, well, you know, but you just carry them over, you know. You just keep carrying them week to week, and hopefully those opportunities present themselves. And sometimes I've carried things throughout the year that we ran in the bowl game. You repped it for 10 weeks, you know. And so it's just one of them deals, is when it gets close to the end, you're like, you look at the baggage and you're like, well, you know, we better get rid of this, you know. So some of that happens too.
Any moments in your coaching time where it kind of started out good, went astray the way it kind of has here, and then you were able to get it back?
I honestly think it happens most years, you know.
The ups and downs.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just the way seasons go unless you win every game, you know, which you have a couple seasons throughout, you know, I can think of a handful of years, like when we, you know, at Houston a few years ago, we went 12-2, or 12-1. We lost our first game and last game of the season. We lost the kickoff classic to Texas Tech, and then we lost the championship game to Cincy, and then we won every game in the middle, right? But the year before, I think we won 3, or whatever it was, right? And so it's really up and down. So, you know, most times seasons are up and down. You know, you're going to hit peaks and you're going to hit valleys. You know, hopefully the way that this program is being built, it's being built in such a way where, you know, it's more steady at the top. Does that make sense? And I think that's obviously the path we're going. You know, to think that it was going to happen this year, we were all hoping, right? Started out pretty good. Part of the deal, too, I mean, everybody, you know, wants to know sometimes why you don't play well. Well, sometimes you got to give the other team a little bit of credit, too. You know, you start playing a little bit better teams, conference plays towards the end of the year. That matters a little bit also, you know. And so you just look at how everybody's schedule lies, you know, and then you can, you know, you can logically look at things and see why things are, you know.
Jakari's going to be competing.
Yeah.
Tyler starting, Jakari competing. In practice, does that mean Jakari gets any first-team looks, or is it primarily just he's running with the twos?
We'll see how it goes. I mean, I haven't really mapped out practice for Tuesday and Thursday yet. It's in the process right now, but he was ready to go last week. Honestly, you know, if I saw any reason to put him in, I would have, you know. To me, honestly, I never saw Emory wavering, you know. I thought it was a very steady approach by him. And I thought, you know, and look, you know, the moment that you make, okay, I'm going to put somebody in for a drive, then maybe Emory never gets back on track. You know, I mean, there's a rhythm and way that things are that I'm very conscious about interrupting, you know, and it's who I am. And so, you know, I'm keeping a very close eye on everything. And look, he's ready to roll, you know, and so if we need him, he will be there. And no different between him, Emory, and Tyler. I preach the same thing with every one of them, is when you get that opportunity, take advantage of it, you know. And that's really life, but football, I mean, all you can do is work up to the point to where you put yourself in that opportunity, then when you get it, hey, let's take advantage of it, you know.
Last question, Coach Dawson.
Is that really the kind of kid, and he's got obviously bigger stuff to deal with right now, but when you show him film, he was incomplete on 9 straight passes, but like only.
He was the what now?
He was incomplete on 9 in
Yeah.
the second half. To be fair, I think only one of them was probably a bad throw. I mean, they, like you said, they do cover pretty well.
Yeah.
Is he the kind of kid that can look at beyond the numbers and say, God, 8 for 23, I was terrible? Does he understand? Does he have that yet? That
I think
it's
so.
not just what the stats say sometimes.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, the fact is, when teams play man coverage like that, your percentages are probably going to go down a little bit, you know. And your big plays should go up. Like, there's a ebb and flow of like, okay, if you sit there and you play a zone defense, I mean, you should be 70% completion, right, around there. The more people play man that can play man, right? It's different if you can't play man, right? Everybody understands that. But if they can play man, then obviously windows are smaller. 50% completion percentage is typically pretty good against those really, really good high-end man teams, you know? And so I look at things with a very clear lens when it comes to that. Now, I will say this, you know, to tell you, if I gave you any kind of glimpse of what kind of kid this kid is, right? He's sitting there. I go to the hotel room yesterday, and right the moment I walk in, he says, Coach, sorry about the third quarter. I was like, I mean, really, you know? But that's just, I mean, that's how his mind is, you know? And so, and it's never all on one person, you know? I mean, everybody's got to do their job, and but he's very conscious of, like, the flow of the game and all the rest, you know? We struggled in the third quarter, but it wasn't all him either, you know? I mean, we were, you know, and a lot of it was them, you know? They went in at halftime, and I'm sure what they got was elaborate, because we were sitting there with 200 and something yards in the first half. They hadn't given up that this year. And so they weren't happy. So they came out in the third quarter and they tightened it down a little bit. And then we didn't respond like we wanted to. Now in the fourth quarter, we got back up to around 7 yards of play, and we gave ourselves a chance to get back in the game. We have to do a better job in the third quarter in that specific game. And it's not just him, it's just overall.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate that.
But you gotta be pretty happy with the way your guys, it's a pretty tough atmosphere the other night, and some pretty explosive players on the other side, but your guys seem to hold up very well all night.
Yeah, I was pleased in the way we played. Not happy by any means, because you want to win the football game. That's the most important thing. On our goal board, the first goal was to win the football game, and we didn't do that. So was proud of the effort they gave. I thought we played, I'm not going to say as good as we could possibly play, but I thought they laid it down on the line for sure.
You've had a lot of guys get dinged up and come back. And I know that's just part of the game, or any rivalry game. But for the buy-in to still be that high in week 10, what's that kind of say about the collective of the group? Decision.
Yeah, the guys like to play, and I think they love each other, and I think there's a standard that's being created here that doesn't matter what the score is, doesn't matter who we're playing, we're going to play a certain way in a certain style. So every week they kind of reset, and they've done everything I've asked them to do, and we've had to switch defenses halfway through a season because of injuries, and they've bought in. Coaches have done an unbelievable job of selling what we're doing and coaching it and teaching it. So my hat goes off to them, but I really like this group. I really like coaching them. I like being around them. So it's been a good year for us, but we still got a couple games left.
It's not every day the team gets asked to play top 10 back-to-back weeks. How do you reload, especially when so much goes into the first one? How do you get ready for it?
We really don't look at rankings of what they are, because rankings are just rankings, and it's over it's a football team that they're ranking. So we always look at them and what's, how good is their offensive line? What's their quarterback like? What receivers do they have? What's the intangibles? What do we need to do to slow them down? And sometimes a better team doesn't create as much of a problem for us on defense, but because the other side of the ball might be really good. So we just look at it for what it is, and we're playing against a good football team this week, and Coach Brom is a really good play caller. So they're good at what they do, and it's just another challenge. We've been up against a bunch of challenges this year, some really good coordinators, some good quarterbacks, backs, and receivers, so it's just another one that we got to face.
What does Jeff Brom do? You mentioned him, makes him such an effective play caller and offensive coach because they've kind of flipped things around there pretty quickly.
When he was at Western Kentucky, he was really good when he came in, He stayed back when Petrino left and went to Louisville, and he became the head coach at WKU, and then he went to Purdue, and he flipped that thing around real quick. So he's a former quarterback, and his brother's the OC, and they both played at Louisville, and they're very good football coaches. And I think they do a good job of knowing what they have and then fitting our offense around that. And they have NFL experience, as players, and they've been in the college game as well. So they kind of mix and match different things from both, from a professional point of view and a college perspective. So they're good. They're going to look at us and nothing's going to surprise them. So we got to play well. We got to be sound.
And the playmakers, they've got Jawar Jordan at running back and Jamari Thrash at receiver. What have you seen from them on film?
Well, this will be my second year in a row against Thrasher. Thrasher was at Georgia State, and he had a good game against us. He's hard to cover. He's quick, very good player, and then the running back's really fast. So, we've got a tall task, and the quarterback gets the ball out on time, and their offensive line is solid. So, it's gonna be tough for us.
Your young corners stepped up pretty well.
They did.
Considering they hadn't really played a ton
Yeah.
during the course of the season. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, they really fit the game probably better because they were longer. We needed longer guys. It didn't matter how fast you were in that game. You need to have length. And we ended up getting dinged up a little bit, and it kind of presented itself. But it was a decision we was going to have to make anyway to go a different direction because just the height of the wide receiver. So I thought the young Brown played extremely well. I thought Richard played well. So those two guys really played good. They'll continue to play this week, of course. But I was proud of them. Big game, big moments, and they didn't really blink. Even on the one Coleman caught after the punt return, Brown was right there. He looked back for the ball. He fought him a little bit. But, I mean, it's a really good football player he's going against, possibly the best wide receiver in the nation. So I was proud of both of them.
How does Ruben progress from start of spring, start of summer to now? Because it just seems like there hasn't been, I'm sure he's played more plays. I don't have any way to know.
Yeah.
It seems like, I'm sure he's played more plays this year than he played in high school. So, and it just seems like he's still, we haven't seen a drop off.
Yeah, he's playing well. He's played a lot of snaps, especially after the injuries with Mesidor and Najalik. He's had to step up and play more snaps than probably we thought he would. And his body's starting to get a little achy a little bit, because it's a more physical game than high school. He's not always the strongest guy out on the field. So, but yeah, he's playing well. He continues to get better, and we're asking him to do more things. He's having to sacrifice a little bit right now. We can't always keep him on the edge like we want, so because of the body types we need inside. So we'll mix him up outside and inside a little bit, but he's done extremely well. I'm proud of him.
There was a play early on, I think, might have been the first drive. It was 3rd and long, and I think the tight end was kind of left uncovered.
Yeah.
What was the breakdown on that?
We didn't get the right personnel on the field. I had a plan all week to where on 3rd and long, I was going to get basically our nickel package. We call it Buffalo, with 3 linebackers, 3 down linemen, 5 DBs. And we were in base, which was 4 down, 3 backers, and 4 DBs, and we couldn't get the nickel on the field. So the guy was kind of left uncovered with the call, and so that was really on us, really on me. I didn't get the right personnel in, and that was probably what you're talking about, tied into their sideline. So that was all on me right there. We just didn't get the package on the field that we needed. It didn't match up with the call.
Anything else for Coach Guidry?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.